get these car seats professionally cleaned because somebody tried to rescue a dog, got it in the car, found out it was a coyote, and then somehow locked herself out of the car. I'm not really sure how we do that.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Joel. I had to figure out how to keep 6 baby squirrels alive after somebody rescued them from a tree a neighbor cut down. I had to get up every 2 hours. I had to bottle feed them.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Joel, and I had to get a rabies vaccine after I had to get a bat out of our house. Somebody found it on our front porch, thought it was an injured bird, and brought it inside to help it.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Joel. One time I visited Sarah at her administration office job, and she had a full lizard enclosure in there with a little light and everything. She had a lizard. It would grow up to 3 foot long. It had it in there for months. For the record, they're not allowed to have pets at this job.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and no one ever caught me.
Hi, I'm Joel. One time I came home and there was a huge kiddie pool in my backyard with a homemade snapping turtle habitat built. Somebody rescued a big one off the road.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and its name was Snappy.
Hi, I'm Joel. One time somebody jumped in the water to snorkel with manatees. They were hammerhead sharks.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Joel. I don't allow pets in our home.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
I've never been, but based on the outfits I'm seeing on TikTok, the Kentucky Derby is horse church?
Every time I see that they're doing something shitty, it makes me want to do more good things. Every time I see that the government wants to take more from us, I want to give more to other people in my community so that we can have a better life. Every time they fuck something into the ground, I want to make it grow again. We are at the point where if we wanted to undo things, we could. Okay? People in positions of power could stand up and say, no. I'm never shocked. I'm always disappointed. I'm never surprised. Always let down. And, oh, well, if you have low expectations, I'm not going to have low expectations for the people who are supposed to run my country and keep me alive. We can bring it back to Katrina. Everything George Bush did paved a yellow fucking brick road for what Donald Trump is doing today. I've talked about it 500,000 times. I've talked about it for hours, dozens of hours. That's not an exaggeration. This is... You bring up martial law, like we lived it. This was 20 years ago. Not even 20 years ago. It won't be 20 years until this August. I had the worst hurricane season that we will have ever fucking had. And Donald Trump and fuck-ass Elon Musk and Doge and all their dumbass stooges just laid off a fuckload of people at the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. Specifically projects working on preserving Louisiana wetlands so that hurricanes don't destroy our home. Don't live there. Suck my dick. How about that? We're not having this fucking conversation anymore. We're not playing semantic games. Have a fucking heart or get out of the way.
I read a comment that said corporate culture is white supremacist culture. And I just can't unhear it. Like, it literally is a culture of oppression, deception. I still work in corporate America, by the way. So every single day I'm processing, like, why do I feel so soulless? Why do I feel like I'm being drained of my life source every time I sit in front of my computer and do this job? Like, yeah, because I'm forcing myself to fit into a culture, into a place that I'm not ever be comfortable in. Like, this is never gonna fit me. And everybody's like, well, start your own business or find another job. Okay, but look at the economy. My bills gotta stay paid because y'all refuse to stop paying y'all bills too. So I gotta keep paying my bills. What if y'all just stop? Like, I don't know.
The heroism of war is a lie. It's not the bravest who fight, but those who have no other choice. It's not the noble who die, but those who are the least equipped to avoid death. The glory of war is a mask put on to cover the despair of a people without hope. War is the manifestation of a society that's lost its meaning. Every life is disposable for a national or political ideal. When the rich wage war, it is the poor that die. The sacrifice is always made by those who have the least to gain. War is sold to the public as a necessary evil. The powerful and the rich paint it as a moral crusade, but the crusaders are the poor and the disenfranchised. This war will be a war of fear. It has been purposed thusly. People let it in slowly, like a kind of ecstasy. They believe in it like they believe in chiromancy and fortune-telling. They believe in it like they believe in anything that releases them from the forging of their own destiny. Men love their fear. It reconciles them with themselves. Men get the war they deserve.
The best part about this flavor of late-stage capitalism is looking on LinkedIn job boards like feed starving children, $7.50 an hour, cure diseases, $375 plus exposure, decontamination of toxic spill sites, $125, and cancer. But then you scroll a little further and you get a listing like junior associate, big sludge, $1.2 million a year in a 3-bedroom condo in Central Park. Or VP of Mid-Market Strategy for Child Labor Optimization, $850,000 a year, remote work, 5-hour work weeks, and full dental. And if you say something like, maybe we shouldn't be designing an entire society that commoditizes misery and then hire interns to mop it up, some business school in Patagonia Vest will go, well, actually, if you didn't dump chemicals into water, what would the water purification startups even do? You can't disrupt a market that doesn't exist. And then his friend, the CEO of Disease.io, slides in and is like, yeah, bro, we're creating demand. You give half the population asthma or chronic illness, and boom, we launch a subscription inhaler service. That's innovation for you. And then there's this consultant from Evil Corp Global that chimes in with like, I told Big Sludge they could increase quarterly profits by shifting from toxins that kill instantly to ones that slowly degrade the lungs, improves customer lifetime value. And all the while that's happening, you, with your 3 degrees, a PhD in biochemical engineering, and over 10 years of experience in the industry, as well as a 5-page resume, are sitting there wondering why you're not getting interviews, why you're not good enough. When the truth is, they're not hiring. They're just laundering guilt through job
problems is by talking them to death. That's how you kill them. And there's an old saying, which is secrets keep you sick. If you've got thoughts that are fucking hurting, share them.
One of the lessons of straightness is that you only can belong if you are understood. So in order to be understood, you have to say, I am a man, I am a woman, I am this, I am category. That's not love, that's control. Love is a commitment to one another's perpetual and perennial mystery. Love says, I will never understand you. I will never get you, but I don't need to understand or get you, because I'm here to be alongside you, not to consume you. The truth is, affinity doesn't come from pledging allegiance to our alienation. Affinity actually comes from embracing one another's unruliness. I love you because you're just like me, by which I mean unknowable and unfurling.
You guys, check this out. This is the episode happening right now. And that is fan art. That is a depiction of Pele's brother. And how incredible. And then this is the caldera right before this eruption. Okay? Zoomed in. Tell me that's not him.
You are not overthinking it. It was weird. What they said, what they did, it was weird. You don't feel this way for no reason. Now, what are you going to do about it?
What actually is the original moral of Red Riding Hood? Red-hooded girl with a basket of bread went through the woods where the green had fled. Stay on the path, her mother had said. Don't talk to strangers or you'll end up dead. Yeah, don't talk to strangers. I don't think it's as simple as that, because in the oldest versions of it, she hummed a tune as the branches creaked. The moss grew thick and the shadows leaked. A wolf stepped out with a grin so wide. Where are you going? the red girl lied. Yeah, I know the story, but she beats the wolf, right? And in the oldest version, she does it all by herself. There isn't even a huntsman or a saviour figure. To Granny's, she said, but her voice rang strange, like a song half lost in a forest's range. The wolf took off down a hidden track, but he never should have turned his back. So I think there's something about trusting your instincts as well, and maybe something... Wait, he never should have turned his back. At Granny's house, he played his part, clawed at the door with a hungered heart. He wore her gown, pulled the covers tight, and waited there through the crawling night. Yeah, I know this part, and then she comes and it's all, oh, what big teeth you have. So why did you say he shouldn't have turned his back? But when she came, she did not flee. She smiled and said, you came for me. His teeth were sharp, but her eyes were deep, and something old began to seep. What? The better to see, the creature began, but she cut him off with a lifted hand. She whispered words that were not her own, and the floor grew soft like forest loam. Okay, I wasn't taught this as a kid. The walls bent in, the shadows swelled. He tried to run, but the world had held. Red-hooded girl with eyes aglow unleashed the thing that waits below.
If you are tempted towards despair, we're preaching through the book of Revelation at my church right now, which is amazing. John is writing this to 7 churches that are under Roman persecution, and you would expect the comfort to be, hey, things actually aren't that bad. And instead, the comfort of that book is actually things are a lot worse than they appear. It's not you're not just facing the persecution of the Roman Empire. There are actually multi-headed beasts and demonic forces that you're actually dealing with. Things are actually much scarier than you think they are. Powers and principalities of domination and exploitation are very big, very grotesque, and very scary. And yet, the comfort is encountered in the throne room of God. Because we are a people who sit in the shadow of the throne on which sit God and the Lamb. And that reality ought to be a more overwhelming reality for us than even the evil that we witness. This is why people lose steam, particularly in the battle against social injustices, is because people don't expect to face the kinds of obstacles that they're going to face, and they don't expect those obstacles to be as persistent as they are. But if the Christian understands that we're not battling against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, then we ought to expect that kind of resistance. And those ought to be the moments where we lean even more heavily into the power of the Spirit. Because we know that this is a battle that has been pitched for a very, very, very long time. But do we believe that what Paul says in Colossians 2 is true, that Christ has disarmed the powers and principalities and put them to shame in the cross? Are we a people who build communities that live with that at the very root of them? If we want to battle cynicism and complacency and all those kinds of things, it has to be a people who actually recognize the world that we're actually in.
Where are the leftists? We're right here. Where'd you go? We're still organizing protests. We're still begging for Palestinian people's lives on this app. We're still building encampments on college campuses. We're still building infrastructure in our communities. We're still trying to reduce the harm directly on the most vulnerable people this system impacts. And we're wondering where you all went. We're wondering why you're blaming us for the decisions of the Democratic Party leadership, really. Like getting rid of the COVID emergency order and all of the mail-in ballots that came with it that won them the 2020 election. Why the fuck did Biden do that? Running a conservative campaign when, oh, guess what? The conservatives already have a party that appeals to them. We didn't have power over that. We tried to exercise the power we thought we had, and the Democratic Party did jack shit. Because they don't want to do the winning strategy that the Republicans have been doing of taking their fringes and bringing the fold over to them. They want to do this losing strategy of pointing the finger at their fringes instead of adopting their ideas to combat the radical ideas of fascism. You know what combats fascism? Having food in your belly, free food. Having secure housing, free housing. Not being afraid that going to the doctor is going to kill you with medical debt, free healthcare. Making sure you have class mobility, free education. Making sure you have physical mobility, free transportation. Robust public transportation. Making sure you have access to necessary utilities like water, like internet, like electricity. Free of charge. Free postal service. They don't want to start adopting any of those ideas because the people who fund their party benefit from being able to exploit you because you don't have all that. It's much harder to exploit you for your labor if you don't have to pay for healthcare, and you don't have to pay for housing, and you don't have to pay for food. It's just guaranteed. Their donors would hate that shit. So they don't do that winning strategy. And that's not my fucking fault. I'm still doing everything that I fucking can, but I gotta be honest, the bad faith for-profit rage baiting I see around this topic is so goddamn dangerous and destructive. We either band together, or they get to keep picking us off one by one. And doing it within a party structure that continually fails us, that's underwritten by billionaires, is not going to change our circumstances. Well, you know, it will for the worse. But if we meet this moment with some imagination and some creativity, some collaboration, we can change our trajectory. But we can't do it while we're playing the blame game. Only people to blame, right up there.
Let's dance around the kitchen after work on a Wednesday, drinking old potatoes till we're saying shit we shouldn't say, till we're doing shit we probably shouldn't do, till I end up half naked lying next to you. Make a pot of coffee just to forget that we did hit on nicotine while we swear that we could quit. Pack another bowl till we get higher than our lows while we practice letting go of shit we can't control. And it smells like cheap cigarettes on your fingers and on your breath, and it lingers as you kiss my head while we're spilling off the side of your twin-size bed. Smells like cheap cigarettes on your fingers and on your breath, and it lingers as you kiss my head, but there's no place in the world I'd rather be instead. No, there's no place in the world I'd rather be instead.
What? It's so fun.
After 8 hours of testimony and over 1,500 written comments, the Hawaii Board of Land and Natural Resources voted to reject the U.S. Army's final environmental impact statement for the Pohakuloa training area. This means that the state will not accept the Army's final environmental review as adequate. The board determined that the EIS was missing key information, like complete archaeological surveys, full disclosures of impacts on endangered species, and the recent discovery of cultural burial items. Only one board member supported the EIS, while the majority, including Chair Don Chang, made it clear that the Army failed to meet the requirements for a lease on conservation land. Not only is this huge, but it shows, once again, that public pressure works. Rejecting the EIS means that the Army cannot move forward with a new lease until they submit a new, legally sufficient environmental review. It does not stop live fire training yet, but it blocks one of the key steps they need to stay on this AINA past 2029. The Army now enters a 30-day waiting period before issuing its final record of decision. After that, they'll likely try to renegotiate a new lease with the state. At Pohakuloa, but also at Mokua, Kahuku, and Poamoho on Oahu. What we need to do is stay organized and show up next month. Mahalo to everyone who testified and showed up to protect the AINA. Our AINA is sacred, no more desecration.
I don't even recognize you right now. Like, what's going on? I don't understand.
I have to say, I don't understand why you would say that to Nick.
I'm saying that right now, I don't feel like she believes me.
Please don't accuse me.
Okay, so you're just mad at me in general.
Don't do that. I'm sorry. Okay. Don't dismiss her like that. I will not stand for it, and I won't stand for it.
Dismiss who in general?
Dismiss Nick like that.
That wasn't a dismission.
A dismissal, I said.
Sorry. That wasn't a dismissal.
I like being baited for a fight.
I feel like you are too, and I don't want to bait you for a fight.
I just think that was probably one of the most real engages that we've had, and therefore it looks different.
That was the most real engage that you've had. Is that accurate?
No. Okay. That's fine.
Tanya, what I hear is an employee standing in front of you that is so confused. You know, what you need to do as a boss is make your staff feel okay to come and have open communication.
Okay, I feel like I would love for you to be able to come to me and talk to me about anything. I'm not gonna bite.
Princess treatment? You smoke, drink, and yell all day like you a fucking pirate.
Something I wish I could tell every young woman, every young person, if somebody is manipulating you, they are going to do everything in their power to make you feel like you were the one manipulating them. They are going to make you feel like you are crazy, unreasonable, bitchy, a gossip, talking down to them, whatever else. They will never, ever, ever, ever look you in the eyes and take accountability and mean it. They never will. It doesn't matter how well you articulate your argument. It doesn't matter how patient you are. It doesn't matter how kind you are. It doesn't matter if you try to spend, an hour finding the best way to say it, the best words. With my ex, I used to spend so long trying to think about the best way to say something to her in an effort to not trigger her defensiveness. And even still, we would get into an argument and she would tell me, well, the way that you said it wasn't good. I could never, there was no way I was going to say anything that wasn't going to trigger her and make her go into defense. There wasn't. And so if you feel like it's your fault, that you're the one saying the wrong thing, you're bringing it up at the wrong time, you're making them feel a certain way, you're not. If you were advocating for what you need, you are not the bad guy.
This is the part that's going to be really hard for a lot of parents, is whatever my kids end up deciding to do with their lives is not tied to my self-worth. When people say, oh, they're going to be great little entrepreneurs, maybe. I literally zero care. What do I care is that they're kind, they're ambitious, they care about fulfillment over happiness, they are willing to do hard things, they're willing to be consistent. And when you go off into the world, there's nothing for you to be for me to love you.
This may get me canceled, but I don't care. I'm tired of seeing edgy clowns, okay? You're not a real clown. Clowns are supposed to be joyous and whimsical and colorful and have little trinkets and knickknacks in their pocket. We're supposed to be silly, goddammit! Just because you like ICP does not mean that you're a real clown enthusiast, okay? Oh, you like clowns? Where's all your color then? Where's all your little men in your pockets and your trinkets in your bags, huh? Huh? I take my whimsy very seriously, okay? And if you want to go and show up with your black and white makeup and all your edgy little signs all over your face and you come in with a knife, go to mime school, okay? This is clown college. You need to grow up and be childish, okay? Don't just, I'm tired of you guys.
Hello, hi, would you like to get out of this mess? Me too. To do so, we need a powerful social movement, but luckily we've got a lot of scholarship on what makes a successful social movement. Today I'm going to be pulling from Marshall Gantz, who is a senior lecturer at Harvard University and a scholar of social movements. He says there are 5 core features of social movements that lead to them being successful. The first really important practice of social movements is relationship building. So it's really important for people to develop relationships with one another in order to foster mobilization. He says people move people, and people are moved by the example of people moving people. So it can have this sort of escalating, compounding effect. So get off your couch, go meet people, and be willing to work with people who are not just like you. Put their humanity first and start from there. So every time you get involved in a movement, it encourages others by setting the example. Okay, the second core practice is one I've talked about a lot, but it is narrative building. People are moved by stories, and when we tell stories about why there's a problem, what we're fighting for, and why it shows the values that we share, people are more likely to get activated. He says there are 3 aspects to a narrative. That is a story of self, which is an articulation through narrative of why you have been called to what you've been called to. The second is a story of us, which means it's a clear articulation of the values shared by a community that is organizing to protect and implement those values. And it's also, thirdly, a story of now. Why is there an urgent need for action? And he says something really important that I don't think people are really thinking about, which is that these narratives have to prepare people to face daunting challenges by countering fear with hope, empathy, and a sense of self-worth. This has to protect people from fear, isolation, and self-doubt. I really hate when people condescend to the public and act like they can't handle how bad climate change is, for example, because they'll be immobilized. They'll only be immobilized if you don't follow up with like, here's the plan, guys, join up, right? I will never condescend to you. I'll make this promise right here. I will never condescend to you and act like you can't handle the hard truths. The hard truth of this moment, it is bad. It will get worse. It will require sustained action and sacrifice. It will be difficult and uncomfortable, but we can do it together. Okay, so that's 1 and 2, but 3 is strategizing. He says if narratives and relationships are like the emotional aspects of a movement, strategizing is like its cognitive partner. A part of strategizing that he highlights is the need for training leaders. You can do this at multiple levels of the organization, and in fact, it is good if you do so. Number 4 is action. If you don't have things happening that can be counted, votes, people in the streets, things like that, nothing's really happening. He says if you can't count it, it didn't happen. And because if it's not being counted, you're not collecting data in order to learn from what worked and didn't work. 5 is structures. Now, structures can have a dirty connotation among social movement activists. I know that I spent so long in a mutual aid meeting last weekend with people arguing over how we should avoid the word leader because of its hierarchical connotation. Let me tell you, fascists don't give a shit about arguing over language, and neither should we at this point. Let's just get it the fuck done, okay? Movements absolutely need some kind of structure, okay? If you don't agree with that, I recommend you read The Tyranny of Structurelessness, which is about how if you don't have some kind of structure, people will implement one anyways, and it will just be whatever people are used to done again, okay? It will just be bringing all the toxicity of the current structures we have. You have to be deliberate about building a different kind of structure if you want things to be better and less toxic and not replicating all of the hierarchies that we currently have, gender, race, all of that stuff. And I really like this quote from him about the prophetic imagination, which is that transformational vision occurs at the intersection of 2 factors: criticality, which is perception of the world's pain, and hope, which is a sense of the world's possibilities and its promise. He says one without the other doesn't yield the energy for change. If you have hope without critique, if you have critique without hope, you cannot move forward. You need both, and you need to get active so that other people will follow. This is possible, and I believe it's coming. Throughout this nation's history, people have organized themselves. They have sacrificed, sometimes even down to their very lives, for the causes that they believed in. This heroism is possible. Do not believe people who tell you that things have always been bad, so there's no hope for the future. I would love to hear from you if you think that any movements currently are doing a great job of these 5 core practices of social movements and how people can get involved.
100 men versus respecting a woman they don't find attractive. 100 men versus helping another person without trying to feel like an authority or a hero in that moment. 100 men versus not acting jealous and upset when kids, pets, and old people are receiving more care and attention than they are. Sir, you are at war with your own invisible demons and are losing. What makes you think you could fight a gorilla?
Hello. Here are 3 things I've learned from other people that make chores a little less hard. Number 1, choose the path of least resistance. Put things right next to where you will use them. Like the sponge to clean my shower, or this floss on my nightstand, or the trash can next to the nightstand for said floss. Make yourself stare at the toilet bowl cleaner. Our main laundry basket is in the closet, but I like to take my clothes off here, so I added a laundry basket here. My husband as well. Same thing with my shoes. Number 2, put things outside the room that you're cleaning. If you're easily sidetracked by cleaning side quests, when you come across an item that doesn't belong in the room, just put it outside the room. Fantastic. Number 3, just stick dishes directly into the dishwasher. It actually saves more water than doing the dishes by hand. Let the dishwasher do the washing. That's its job. If you say, Christy, what if the dishwasher doesn't get all the gunk off on the first round? Just run it again. Who cares? If you don't own a dishwasher, I'm so sorry. I'm sending you nothing but love and strength.
practices of mutual aid and the strategy around it, and social reproduction, and how those two need to go together in a coordinated and conscious manner to rebuild the solidarity and connections that we need in order to build any and all the rest of these different components that come after it, right? It's a critical starting place. But this has been predicated on actually doing, an analysis of where millions of people are already engaged in work. And the deficiency is that people are doing farming on a small scale to mid-scale to large scale, right?
You are valuable to this society. You don't have PDA autism just because you don't want to be told what to do, and you don't want people taking your energy, and you don't know how to talk to people anymore because your whole life you've been taken advantage of, and you don't want to really join the pack, the herd mentality, because it's gotten you trampled so many times, and you kind of just need a break. And you're so spiritually sick and desperate for something real in this soul-sucking society. So when people tell you to get a life coach, you're like, well, I don't really feel like being spiritually lobotomized by someone who's getting paid to help me. I should have been born into a culture who naturally facilitates people who know how to breathe without needing to pay for oxygen. We're going extinct, and nobody wants to listen to that. Nobody cares that I care about tribes. Nobody cares about the wisdom that I have to share. I just need to learn better how to conform because it's something wrong with me, right? There's always been something wrong with me. And it started with my ADD diagnosis in the mission field when I was a Mormon missionary. Cognitive dissonance. When it's always Jesus versus Satan, and there's never any goddess involved, that you're supposed to worship men all the time. I'm starting to get an ego at this point. So I get some OCD, what the fuck? Can I find a pattern that makes sense? Holding on to it when it does, holding on to it, obsessed. Then I have some obsessions with certain guys, trying to get in touch with my own masculine energy. And then that dissolves and it kind of turns into manic energy because now I've kind of figured out how to be a man and I'm angry. So now you got a bipolar diagnosis. And you're really, really angry at everybody, but it doesn't matter how angry you are, the system keeps going, nobody cares. And so now I'm just taking a break. I'm just the autism girl. I don't mind that diagnosis. That's fine. But it is silly. The things you have to get labeled with just to preserve the authenticity of your own instincts, that they matter and that they are speaking to you in some way. The Greeks would call your depression the power of Hades working through you, probably because something needs to die and be reborn. I don't know, this is society that's causing everyone depression probably needs to die and be reborn into something else. Renaissance, I've been talking about a renaissance. Can we have a renaissance? I'm literally the only one talking about having a renaissance. Wow, I must be so special if it's always about me being wrong. There's got to be something about you if you're always so different from the other sheep.
Does anybody else miss planning for the future? That was a cool thing that we used to do, huh?
I want to start a show to counter-program against Shark Tank, and I would call it Guillotine. And what would happen on Guillotine is billionaires would sit in front of working-class folks like ourselves, and they would have to convince us not to chop their heads off on live television. How much of it are you going to give away? Some of it? No, that's not enough. That's not enough. Bring the blade up. You're going to give all of it away? Okay. All right. No blade.
Bro, people be so concerned with people losing respect for them. They don't respect you anyway. I don't know why you acting like you can do anything to gain anyone's respect around here. And I don't want people to respect me. Respect Allah. Respect Allah. Respect Allah. I don't need y'all respect. I don't care.